board meeting to order today here at 4:30 on July 13th, 2021. And if you'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So you all should have received the agenda. You've got the agenda in front of you. The one kind of minor change that Kent had emailed this afternoon about a second motion that'll be needed for the bond information later on. But other than that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Or
So
any
moved, Mr. Chairman.
amendments.
It's on the updated agenda.
Well, I think we need to have that too, since it was already published.
It's-
And that's what we would.
That's fine. We can do that. We need to.
Is there a motion to amend the agenda to add the executive session?
I so moved, Mr. Chairman.
And I do have 2 items I'm going to add to the agenda as well.
I'm confused. What, there's an executive session on.
It was.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
Laura, it's been moved and seconded to add the executive session to,
Shelby had a couple too.
I have 2.
but we
need to
do
vote on
one
that
amendment at a
first.
time.
Yep.
But did we have a second for the amendment to add the executive session? If not, could we?
If not, yes.
And then if you could call the vote, Laura.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yeah.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
No, I wanted to add them all at once.
Trustee Howell? Trustee Smith?
Yes.
It passes.
Okay, the amendment passes to add the executive session. Shelby, did you?
Yep. I have
If you
2.
want to add,
My first one is I moved to amend the agenda by moving item C1 from the consent agenda to section 9, board action items. And that's the affirmation of legal service provider. I just want to be able to talk about that. Not
Legal services.
legal service provider. It was in consent
Right.
agenda C1.
is there a second for that amendment?
You wanna
move it to where?
Just board
Discussion
action
item?
items.
It'd be the board action item because
Okay.
it's something that
All right,
was
so
in the
we can-
consent
I'll
agenda.
second that.
Been moved and seconded to move the item C1 from the consent agenda up to the item C in the board action items. Laura, if you could.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Howell? Trustee Smith?
Yes.
The amendment passes.
My second item is I moved to amend the agenda by adding a statement to section 9, which is board action items. The statement is, quote, the Butler Community College Board of Trustees does not endorse critical race theory, unquote.
I'll second.
In order for that to be an action item, it's that you can't add a statement.
Okay.
You'd have to amend the agenda to add that as some
So
sort
add
of
a
an action
resolution?
item.
Add it, sorry.
Add it as some sort of an action item.
Okay. I would move to amend the agenda by adding a statement to an agenda item to section 9. And how would you like me to say that?
That the board take action on whatever
The
you,
board take action or vote on this statement. The Butler Community College Board of Trustees does not endorse critical race theory.
is there a second?
Second.
Laura, if you could call
Yeah.
the roll.
Yeah, discussion item before.
We can have some brief discussion, but really it's.
My point in doing this is I know it's a political hot button right now, and I just want just us as a board to say, I expect in college everything to be fully talked about, whatever it is. I want no limits on freedom of speech. I just want as a board, this is not an ideology that we endorse. And then people that are looking to pick colleges right now, choosing us over another college, say, hey,
So Shelby, we're
Okay.
talking about adding an item to the agenda. If it gets added, we can discuss it in further detail. If there's some brief discussion or brief questions as to why, but I want to keep them very brief.
My point would be, I don't have a problem with the discussion of these issues. I think discussion is healthy. I don't think we're prepared, at least I don't feel prepared to take action on this. This is the first I heard about it was your email yesterday. I would be happy to support adding this as a discussion item. I cannot support adding it as an action item.
Any other comments?
I agree with those.
Laura,
I'm
if you
just
could go ahead and
disappointed
call
that
the
more
roll.
People have not really examined the critical race theory.
Laura, if you could go
Trustee
ahead and
Good?
call the roll.
Yes. Trustee Law,
Not as an action item, I can't support it.
or Trustee Rhodes,
No.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
No.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Howell, Trustee Smith,
Yes.
so it fails 4-3.
The amendment fails. With that being said, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments to add, to move item C1 from the consent agenda and to add the executive session at the end of the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Laura, if you could call the roll to approve the
Trustee
updated
Good?
agenda.
Yes. Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes, but what is the executive session about?
Trustee Howell,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
I see.
The amended agenda passes as we spoke to. Dr. Kroll, recognitions. The
Thank
next item on the agenda.
So this month, we have 2 students that we want to recognize. I think one is here. Students Shelby Varner and Naomi Galindo just got back from the National PBL Conference. I'm going to sit here in front of my microphone and then, so come over here, Naomi behind me. PBL is an international organization focused on career development and networking opportunities for its members. Through its various activities, members build personal and professional skills. In the international competition, Shelby placed 3rd in sales presentation. She will be attending K-State in the fall, majoring in ag communications. Naomi placed 7th in global analysis and decision making. She will be completing a 2nd associate's in history from Butler this fall and spring, while also beginning her modern languages, French and German degree at K-State. She will also serve as Kansas's PBL State Vice President of Communications. I didn't know that. Congratulations. Also, 2020 Butler graduate Andre Davis was just elected as the national PBL president. He will be a senior at KU this fall. So we want to say congratulations to you. Good job. We're proud of you. It was first. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought that's what Janice House said.
Yeah, next year we're hoping that it will be
Good. All right.
There you
Well, thank
go.
you. Congratulations. Good job. Thanks for being here.
Is that all of them?
Yeah. Yep. Shelby's on here. So
Okay.
we'll
Sorry
send
about
that. We'll put that.
Tell her
And-
she has the goat soap.
Goat soap. Shelby
That's what
does.
She won on.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And so we will go on to public comment. My understanding is that there is one public comment. I'm going to read the disclosure, I guess, from the trustee standpoint. The general public is welcome to address the Board of Trustees under public comment section of the regular board meeting agenda. Personal issues are prohibited from the public comment. The board chairperson will ask visitors wishing to make brief comments to identify themselves and the topic they're wishing to address. If several members of one group or organization wish to speak to the board concerning the same item, the board chairperson may ask the group to identify a single spokesperson. A time limit of 5 minutes has been set for each recognized member or spokesperson of the audience to speak to the board. The board will take no action during the public comment period of the board meetings. However, it will take the matter under deliberation and, if appropriate, direct the president to follow up with a written response or report at the next regular board meeting. So Julie,
That was really long. Thank
it's,
you.
Laura.
I'm speaking as a trustee member. I'm speaking as a public citizen, recognizing that I am a resident of Butler County. And I'm going to say that several times this year, I've had calling, stopping, or restaurant, whatever, and tell me that they can't get a meeting and then come to the meeting the next day or whatever, why for the first several minutes. And I know we discussed this before, but I would just really like to see the board investigate that. and make sure it's not. Again, I'm speaking this. Thank you very much.
thank you, Julie. So we will move on to the standing reports, part of the agenda. Mr. Sater,
Dr. Sater.
Dr. Sater.
Yeah. Dr. Sater.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I drove all the way over here today to tell you that in July, there really is. However, I've been asked to let you know about professional development days. At the beginning of every fall semester, faculty get a class to continue their preparation and to meet new developments of its institution vision targets. And in the past, board members have always been you're not going to make me repeat that. As I said, we are preparing for our classes, and we meet on various other issues that are important to our work during the semester. Of course, there is going to be the obligatory hazing of the vice president that's coming on. We'll keep you informed about that. And I'll go out on a limb and invite you to Dr. Kroll's reception Monday night. But I hope to see some or one, all of you sometime during that second week of August.
Is it the second Monday of the week?
Yes, it's
Okay.
August 9th through the 13th.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we're actually going to do that first Monday night is turn it into a picnic, kind of a college picnic, and celebrate the folks that retired last year that we didn't get to celebrate with, and invite them back. So that's probably what it'll be on Monday night. But sorry.
Thank you, Terry. Board Finance Committee, Doug or Shelby? Any updates there?
We got an update on the status of the college's financial situation, and that information will be reviewed again in our work session this evening. So I think we'll just wait until that time for the review. Thank you.
Foundation report, Forrest.
Did not meet last month. Tom, is there anything to share? No, not right now.
President's report, Dr. Kroll.
I have a few things. I want to, for those of you that haven't met Dr. Neville yet, Dr. Tom Neville is with us. How many days in now? 11, 12, 13 days. And he's coming back. He keeps coming back. But we've had him out and about on campus and here and Andover, and he's getting acquainted with folks. And I don't know, anything that you want to say at all?
I'd say, yeah, it's been a wonderful welcome, and I hope we can sustain that wonderful welcome. Good, okay. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful meeting with some of our students, our faculty, our staff, and some of our community. I've been out in the community and met some of our current students and alums, and it's just great to be a part of this endeavor with them. So thank you for having me. And so far, my access still works, so I can come back.
We're glad he's here too. He's going to be a great addition to the Butler family. The Kansas Promise Scholarship is finally launched. We got our final approved documents, a number of them from the Board of Regents last week. We've already taken, I think, 30 applications, maybe, or 31 applications. We were taking some of them prior to some of the things being finalized, but we've been out, in front of the Butler County USDs and some of the service area USDs, the city commissions. I know I was in Potwin last night. I think Lori was in Hope. Yeah, we've kind of been all over the place trying to spread the word and share the information, because people are networked and have different friends and family, and just trying to get as much information out as we can. Lots of commitment that students have to make to be part of it, but we're excited about it, and we know that this is going to be a year of lots of questions and probably some things that we learn along the way, but there's certainly thought that the legislators will come back in January with a trailer bill that will kind of clean up some of the things that were unintended or that we didn't know about until we got into this. So we're really excited about it. There's just a lot of energy about it, and super opportunities for students. I wanted to update you. I think, I don't remember if it was last month that Michelle Reuter and Alitra Cheney-Prophet talked to you about the Workforce Corrections Grant and that opportunity. I think it was last month that they were here. We have received notification that we've received that grant, a grant from the Department of Corrections to offer educational services in a little bit different way at El Dorado Correctional Facility. The grant period runs, at least to start off with, from FY22 through 24. And starting off with some ABE GED classes and some things like that. This grant funding has been granted to different institutions around the state, but obviously the intent is to try to create accessible and high quality educational programs that will help the residents that are going to be released be able to gain employment when they get out, to help prepare them for that. So we're excited about that. And there'll be more to come. There's a number of positions that we'll be filling or hiring as part of that grant, but grant funded positions. And so we're just stepping into the front end of it, but it should be a really great opportunity for us to offer some additional programming out of the correctional facility. So we'll keep you informed about that as we go along. Also want to let you know that we received notification. I think we had talked previously about the fact that we had gotten approval for our culinary classes, through the summer in Wichita, and had been holding those, continued to be holding those at Boston Rec Center. We received notification last week, right, Lori, last week, that the city of Wichita is not renewing our lease with the Boston Rec Center. We kind of anticipated that would happen. Wichita State Tech is going to move in there on our heels. City's going to let them use that space. And so we had had conversations prior to last week, even with the Andover School District, and we're going to be in some of their new culinary space and baking classroom space for next year temporarily. But their board passed an agreement last night, and we'll have that in front of you folks probably at the special board meeting. That may be the only thing that's on the special board meeting agenda other than the notice of public hearing, but we want to put that in front of you. But they're really excited about having us in that space, and it'll be a great opportunity until we get our the building built. So I wanted, most of you may know, but this is Laura's last meeting, and she's decided to take a job in Newton with an insurance agency there. And so we want to wish her well and tell her thank you for her service to the board in this office. And at the same time, I'll ask the board to be patient because we will be transitioning somehow, hiring somebody new and transitioning a new person into the office. And so I'll be utilizing some other resources around campus to help put the board book together and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, give us a little bit of grace. The board book may look different next month than it does this month, but we'll figure out how to do it. So I just want to say thanks to Laura, and I knew the board wanted to say thank you to Laura. And then just as a note, you'll see this when we get to the agenda, and we always pull the retirements off of the consent agenda, and they're actually board action items. But just as a note, we have 4 folks retiring that are actually on our agenda tonight. There's 87 years of Butler employment and experience that are going with those folks that are retiring and going to have some fun and do some different things. And we always wish them well, but that's a lot of institutional knowledge and a lot of longevity. But I think that also speaks to the fact that people love their jobs and they love the people that they're working with, and they believe in the mission of this college to serve students. And so 87 years is a lot of years. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. I'd answer questions if you've got them.
Could we get a link to the Kansas Promise Scholarship, link
on-
to the college? So
It's on our website. Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
all on
know
our
where to-
website. Everything's on our website.
just
And
front
then,
page,
I'm sorry,
just the front page.
just go to our regular webpage and there's a little ribbon right at the very top, I think, that says Kansas Promise something. It's there. I don't know if the links are fixed on the Kansas Board of Regents one yet. I think it's also linked on the KACCT website, but ours actually has all of our programs listed. So,
And there's a complete page on it.
Yeah.
Other questions at all for Dr. Kroll? If not, Laura, don't be a stranger to Butler. Miss you. Thank you for everything. Education Facilities Authority, Jim or Doug?
We haven't met yet. Meet tomorrow morning. 8
Eight.
o'clock.
Okay,
That's up to the
next month. Okay, thank you, Jim. Monitoring reports. I believe Mel.
Mel is gonna tell us about the STEM division, I think, right? All things STEM.
I'm at the point now where I have to zoom in like 140% on this. Let's see, I didn't bring my glasses. So I want to start off by first thanking faculty and staff from the STEM division. And I'm going to read this verbatim because I don't have it memorized. So the past year has not been easy for any of us. Most of us have spent additional time and energy strategizing, coordinating, and yes, in many instances, questioning how in the heck are we going to get successfully through this past year. Everyone from the top down, Board of Trustees, our executive team, facilities management, information systems, finance, marketing, advising, faculty, staff, and many others. One does not successfully pull through a worldwide viral disaster alone. It takes a team, a very strong team, a team with determination and grit. Our Butler team successfully pulled through. I would even say it made us stronger. I want to recognize and publicly thank the Butler STEM division faculty for pulling together and successfully guiding, leading, and encouraging our students to successful completion of their classes. They did a splendid job. Faculty spent additional hours in counseling, advising, and encouraging our students to endure and to grind it out. Secondly, I want to recognize our STEM associate dean, Shannon Covert, who's sitting over here, and Naomi Thompson, who cannot be with us this evening, and our administrative assistants, Olivia Coons, Stacy Wood, for helping me, faculty, staff, successfully push through this past academic year. We certainly could not have done our job without your support, time, and energy, so thank you. It continues to be my privilege and honor to lead and support such an outstanding group of faculty, people who care about the success of their students and one another. So now I'm going to move on and talk about the great things our division did this past year. So I'm going to be repeating many of the things that you have heard or discussed over this past academic year. First off, I want to talk about Larry Friesen. Larry was, he's a full-time math/engineering faculty. He received the Roush Excellence of Faculty Award, and that was from a pool of more than 60 nominees. And according to Mark Jarvis, Butler's Director of Faculty Development, approximately 90% of the nominations come from our students. The award is presented by the League of Innovation for the community college and honor faculty for abilities in teaching, leadership, and innovation. And in my opinion, this was much past due for Larry. He's an outstanding faculty member and he's a gentleman. Order of the Purple, we had 19 STEM faculty recognized by Order of the Purple students, which is awesome. Of these, we had 2 faculty who were nominated 3 times, so by 3 different students. And we had 3 faculty nominated by 2 different students, 2 times. I think that speaks very loudly of the quality of our faculty. Student Life Awards, we had 17 STEM faculty nominated for various awards. Brett Eisenman, who's one of our cybersecurity faculty, not only received Order of the Purple recognition, but he was also nominated in 3 categories at the Student Life Awards. He was nominated for Outstanding Staff, the Bill Rinkenbaugh Unsung Hero, and Outstanding Student Advocate. And then, of course, as many of you know, Mara Stewart of El Dorado. She won the Student Leader Award from the Accreditation Council for Collegiate Business Schools and Programs. We have a plaque here at Butler. Her name will be on that plaque with several other students. The PBL, as you heard earlier, I can't say enough for Janice Sakow and Noreen Templin. They are the chapter advisors for PBL. They do an outstanding job coaching these students. Every year that they have been in this position, they've had students place at nationals. And this year, as you heard, we had 2 place at nationals this year. Naomi Galeando from El Dorado and Shelby Varner from Towanda. So these are local students who placed nationally. Shelby placed 3rd at sales presentation category, and as you heard, Naomi placed 7th in global analysis and decision making. And I hope that you also caught that these students are going on and not only becoming leaders locally, but they're becoming leaders at their universities at the attend. Livestock judging, Taylor Frank was recognized as co-coach of the year. He's been coached for 5 years. Out of 5 years he's coached. 4 of those years he's been coach of the year. This is the 4th time he's received that recognition. The livestock judging team finished as co-team of the year. We had 5 out of 15 academic All-Americans. I want you to know Coach Taylor stays on top of his kids. They are expected to go to class every day, even when they arrive from their livestock judging competitions, 6 o'clock in the morning, they're expected to be in class at 8. So if the faculty aren't seeing those students, Coach Frank wants to know. Many of you read the great story on one of our welding students, Lloyd Johnston. He was an adult learner, built just an absolutely gorgeous Eagle welding project. He discovered a new talent. He did not know that talent until he came to Butler. And I want to thank Matt Galbraith for giving him the freedom to do that. Matt Galbraith was semifinalist for the 2020 American Welding Society Educator of the Year. Chef Greg Cole, one of our adjuncts, was featured on Cake's Good Morning show. And he was also featured at the Women's Fair at Century 2 this past year. Academies rather, continued to move forward with our Culinary Arts Academy out of Augusta High School. And we have our Welding Academy. Our Welding Academy, by the way, is full this year, as is our welding program.
And that's full at what, 15, 20?
Yeah, we cap it at 15. That's
15.
what a faculty member can safely manage. Yeah, great question. Welcome. Retirements. Dr. Crowell mentioned the wealth of knowledge that is exiting this facility. When you take in consideration all of the knowledge that has exited this past year with Melody Cho from mathematics, Adnan Falls from mathematics, Michael Heffron from biology, Dr. Robert Ray from software development, and Dr. Kim Carr from chemistry, you're going to have over 200 years of knowledge and experience exiting Butler. So they will be missed. We hoped that we could have some receptions for them, but it just didn't work out. So hopefully we can have them back here to recognize them. New faculty and staff, Naomi Thompson joined us as our new STEM Associate Dean. Her main responsibilities are to assist me and Shannon, providing oversight and support to the CT faculty and programs. She'll obviously be doing much more than that, but those are her main focuses and responsibilities. We added Dr. Glenn Manning to biology. He will teach has taught general biology, majors biology, microbiology, and then we added Chef Pena to our culinary program. And then last but not least, we signed 2 transfer agreements this past year, one with Wichita State Business Administration. That one we have been working on for years and years and years, and we finally got it done. And then Oklahoma State University contacted us, their Institute of Technology, about signing a 2+2 in their cybersecurity and information technology, and we got that thing signed. So very excited about that. They will charge our students in-state tuition for now. And there are scholarship opportunities. The students also qualify for those. So now it's time for questions. What questions does the board have?
Well, is there going to be a permanent home for that Eagle Road project?
Good question. Right now, the permanent home is at Lloyd's house. He actually, Matt had it posted on Facebook, and he actually had an individual offer him $10,000 for the Eagle. So I don't know what he's going to do. But Dr. Kroll could elaborate on that more at some point in time, but it really is awesome. I'd like to have it in my yard, but I'm not going to pay $10,000 for it.
It's big. It is so big, and it's difficult. When we pulled our art faculty in to talk about, the acquisition of art, the process that we use to have art on campus and stuff. It's really big and heavy, and we really weren't certain that we had an appropriate place for it inside where it could stay permanently. And so what we asked Lloyd to do was because he's very talented, and I mean, he built this Eagle just using pieces of scrap rebar that were thrown away. We asked him and commissioned him to do a grizzly head for us that's smaller, that will be easier to place someplace. And so we think that probably this fall, where's Tom? Yeah, at one of I think it's at the scholarship luncheon. We may have Lloyd present that to the college, because he came back to college. He came back to college on his Butler 2000 scholarship that he'd gotten when he was in, middle school. And he's
At Augusta.
Yeah, Augusta Middle School. He's a non-traditional student now, so yeah. But he's got some tremendous talent. It'd be fun to see what happens for him.
I did have an idea for the construction kids and the welding kids. My daughter's in ceramics or pottery at Butler. I took a bunch of stuff over to WSU over the weekend and fired it in the wood-fired kilns.
Mhm.
Those are not that difficult to build.
Oh, cool.
We could have maybe construction kids they're doing bricklaying in the class. They could lay the bricks for it, and then the welding actually was ran around. Hop over in any direction. So it would be a good collaboration for kids to do something if we had a location for it on campus. It'd be an interesting little project. It wouldn't have to be gigantic, but sure, something we could do. Well, something to think about. Sure. Thank you.
Any insight, Mel, into drop in technology? Just curious, that's a pretty big.
What'd you say?
Sorry.
Trustee Howell speaking to that mic.
Trustee Mary Martha, is this okay?
Thank you very much. Okay.
All right. I was curious if Mel had any insight into the reduction in the credit hours of the automotive technology program. It seems to be a precipitous drop.
Yeah, and actually, what's not on there is last year he was full.
Okay.
We know COVID impacted it. It impacted we talked to multiple schools and their enrollments were just down in CTE. But we were a bit baffled by the past numbers, the drop in numbers ourselves. So we were really pleased when last year he was full. I just checked enrollment this morning and he's at 9, and he also caps it at 15.
Any other questions at all for Mel? Mel, thank you very much. Appreciate the report and the information.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
we will move on to the board strategic discussions. The first item is the Butler because, I believe it is Tom.
Yep,
There
Tom's
he
gonna do
is.
that, and I think Laura's got maybe something that she's gonna present.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, hello, my name is Tom Borrego. I'm Vice President for Institutional Advancement, and I'm part of the foundation. Want to share with you a little bit about a project that the foundation has been working on for quite a while, and it's now kind of coming to its ending point, and we can begin to utilize our work that we have been compiling. So, part of the mission of the foundation is to raise money for the college. That's pretty obvious. But another part of our mission is to advocate for the college and the community. And we do that in various ways. And so this is a tool that we thought would be helpful to educate the community on what Butler Community College does for it. And maybe some little things that they didn't consider or didn't know. So the name of the campaign is Butler Because. And one of the things we discovered as we began visiting with people about why Butler is good, why Butler is effective, everyone had a story about their interaction with the college, whether it was as a student or whether it is a volunteer or whether it's a faculty member. Everyone had a because. And so we thought that was a great way to title this. So what we decided to look at, what we try to communicate in these cards are community impact the college has, student impact, economic impact, and then the impact of our funding and how it works. Because what we find when we go out and talk to people, questions come up, they hear something that maybe isn't quite what they thought, and we provide the information. We do that in various ways already. There's a community newsletter that goes out, has a ton of information in it. Marketing sends out a lot of information that's on this one page that's got about 10 million different things in it if you can find it. But it's a tool that we've used. But this is a different way, a different tool of kind of saying the same thing. And so our strategy is to go out into the community, about 170 people or so in Butler County, to let them know that this is some information that would be helpful to you, know a little bit more about us, but also allow them to ask us questions and dive into something that maybe they're not sure about or they want to know more about. So what we did, you can scroll this a little bit, is we started off with just here's some information about scholarships. If you go to the next one, you start to see a fact, which is the first fact is our economic impact in the county. We have direct economic impact of $46 million. So as a business, this is what we're bringing to the county. And then we have a quote from Jennifer McCausland over at City of Andover, just making a comment about that particular item. We kind of go along that pattern. If you can keep ticking them along there. You see something about the number of Butler students that have jobs that get and work in the area. How much kids save when they come to Butler. Go ahead and keep going because I don't want to take up too much time. Some information about the mill levy, kind of where we sit as far as the number of entities that are supported by the mill levy, so people understand kind of where we are, the impact we have on that. A little bit about the community colleges, where we fall as far as the impact the mill levy has on, the mill levy that we take compared to other community colleges. The academies, which we know all about. 75% of our students stay in Kansas, which is a state effort to keep young people in the state of Kansas and working. Half of our students, which this is nothing new to you all, half of our students are first-time college students in their family. We're the largest employer in the county. 83% of our students work. This is not unusual to community colleges, but it's a fact that some people don't really realize. Nelson Mosley, who's the chief of police who sits on the foundation board, was really excited about this particular fact because he was one of those students who was working out at McConnell and thought he needed to get an education, didn't know how to do it, and found us, and it's been good for him ever since. So he was very proud to be a part of that. That's the number of students that we tend to hit in the age group that we hit. Our impact at McConnell. That's just the smiling face of Vince. That we transfer about 500 students to Wichita State a year. The relationship we have with other institutions like Emporia State and University of Kansas. This is kind of a fun one. So Ben Powers, who was a student here at Butler, played football, then went off to OSU, and then was drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. We contacted him, and he was tickled that somebody had reached out to him to visit about his personal impact that he felt that Butler gave him. And so he said, "I'm gonna give you the meanest picture I can give you," and he did. And so that fit in his uniform. But he credits Butler for his success. And he's not the only athlete that's come from our institution that feels that way. But Ben was very gracious to give up his time in quote. And then Jeremy Sundgren, who's been a longtime supporter of the institution, involved with the college, finishing up. So these are some of the things that we'll be sharing. It's been done in other communities, and we're glad that we invested in this type of activity. We'll start visiting here the next several months and sharing this information. Any questions?
Love it.
Great, looks
Thank
great,
you.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I think one of the fun things for me too is the stories that came out of this, and the idea that it'll broaden into a broader campaign even. But everybody that got interviewed and they talked to it was a Butler because it was some story, so it was really fun.
So moving on to the next item is the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Dr. Kroll.
I wanted to spend just a little bit of time. Again, I think Laura's going to put this up on the screen maybe. And you've got a hard copy in front of you. My meetings all run together, unfortunately, but we talked about the fact that I would bring this kind of update to you at this meeting. When we meet at the end of July, we'll talk a little bit about where we think we're headed for the next strategic plan and put the strategic planning timeline in front of you. And I think I also indicated that, starting in September, we want to start to do a college-wide, really deep dive into the strategic plan and really dig into it and look to see, how we might want to alter it in an even broader way for 2022 through 2024. So thinking ahead. But the first page just identifies our mission, vision, and of course our timeless institutional values. We always talk about those. We talk about those with new employees, and it's really the core of the work that we do day in and day out and what we really believe in. The strategic plan is really designed to allow us to address changes in the higher education landscape regionally, statewide, and nationally, design goals and priorities and performance indicators that will leverage our strengths, focused on student success, of course, and in the community and the workforce as far as their needs. Ensure a college culture and environment where faculty, staff, and students belong, engage, and thrive, and then direct our vision, work, and resources toward a defined vision for the future. The 4 overarching goals that we have had in our strategic plan for quite a while and that are embedded in this one are ensuring student success, invest in our employees' success, contribute to our communities, and then advance institutional effectiveness. And so what I want to do now is just take each of those 4 areas and run through just some of the priorities that were identified, and then the performance indicators throughout the past year. In your board book, at the end of the board book, you've seen every month KPIs, progress that has been made, or at least information on some of these priority areas and the performance indicators. And so just wanted to give you kind of an idea of where we're at the end of the year on some of these. Some of them we tackled and completed. A lot of them are ongoing because they don't ever have an actual end date. Some of them we didn't make much progress on, and oftentimes for those it was COVID related or something like that. So let's just look at ensure student success for just a second. Our priorities were to focus marketing, recruiting, retention efforts to align with guided pathways approach to academic success, to utilize the program viability model recommendations, to incorporate appropriate tuition discounting and scholarship strategies to maximize student access and educational opportunity. And then on the next page, invest in a college-wide technology framework to continue to support student success, and then implement processes and guidelines related to COVID. So a couple of the key ones in this area that I want to point out in priority one, we were supposed to research and develop new program offerings. And you'll know that in this past year, I mean, we've done a lot of work on those, but we did implement and had you folks walk through with us and approve construction technology and diesel mechanics. There's some other ones that are ongoing that we'll bring forward, but we're pleased about that. We continue to execute the strategic enrollment plan and monitor that progress. Strategic enrollment management team meets regularly and constantly looking at our enrollment goals and our students that are interested and applied and enrolled. And so we're tracking that plan all the time. Down below towards the bottom under priority 3, I think this is really significant. Continue to research and embed new options for textbooks and OERs to reduce student costs for the fiscal year 21. On the very top right-hand part of this page, you'll see that since 2019, we've saved our students have saved almost $1.4 million in textbook costs because our faculty have worked really hard to embed electronic textbooks or online educational resources into their courses. The total savings this past year is almost $230,000, and it's going to continue to grow. Those are significant savings for our students. We also wanted to make sure that we utilized foundation scholarships for recruitment in FY21 and 22. Last year, the foundation granted $750,000, more than that in scholarships. They also had some scholarships that were specifically granted to admissions to use as students applied and to kind of recruit and award students additional scholarship dollars. If you turn to the next page, under priority 4, where we're talking about investing in artificial intelligence tools to provide increased access, we felt like we completed about 50% of that goal. This is the chat bot that we launched this past year. So if you go to the website, is it Griswold? Griswold pops up at the very bottom to ask, can I help you? Can I answer some questions for you? And so that's part of this whole launch of intelligence, artificial intelligence tools. And Bill will tell you that Griswold is busy in the evening hours and the overnight hours, and continues to grow in the questions that are answered. And a lot of these questions, of course, are embedded into the system. They're most frequently asked questions, but at some point in time, that database of questions, it'll just continue to grow. Increase the usage of student lifecycle tools with further implementation of Evolution Recruit and Aviso. And I want to point this one out because Aviso has been significantly impactful this past year. Aviso was one of the tools that we used to keep track of students when we were having to do contact tracing, and when folks had to be in quarantine or were ill. Jamie Sharp in College Health, we did all of our own contact tracing on campus, and Jamie Sharp closed more than 750 Aviso alerts. The faculty could send her alert about a student, and then she would respond back in answering those and let faculty or staff know when those cases were closed. And so it's not only a great tool to use for watching students and how they're doing in their classes and whether they're attending and if faculty or staff have concerns about them, but we also used it in that way for COVID, and actually were recognized by Aviso at the national level for our use of that platform. Under implementing the process and guidelines related to COVID-19, very, very successful in the processes that we put together for last summer and into this past school year. And again, recognized by the Wichita Business Journal for Innovation Award, and continue to hear lots of compliments and comments from people outside of this institution that our process was very seamless and very well done, but it's because of the effort of everybody kind of coming together and figuring it out and putting some consistent practices in place and some consistent communication opportunities in place. But it took faculty and staff and students all working together to make it happen. And when we talk about investing in our employees' success, you can see the priorities in bold there. Maintain a competitive market position for compensation, promote shared participatory governance and enhance communication, support a culture of innovation, excellence, and accountability. And then on the next page, proactively implement processes again and guidelines related to COVID-19. A couple of things in here that I want to point out. The first one, under the first priority, you know, we said we were about 25% complete on continuing to implement the HR consultant study recommendations using salary surveys and HR analytics. These are things that we just didn't get to. The salary surveys were we had a lot of other things we were doing the past year, and so HR is trying to develop new reporting to understand in a deeper way retirements and you know, faculty hiring processes and some things like that. We just didn't have time to get to those this past year, but they may continue to be embedded. We'll see in the next year's study. Under 1B, continue to plan to include equity funding. You know, this past year, we removed that equity funding as a budget reduction in the current budget year that we're in, but we're hoping, so this probably shouldn't say 100% complete. I guess it's 100% complete because we're going to ask for that funding to be re-embedded in this next budget year coming up. But, you know, we didn't necessarily accomplish that this past year. We used under 2B, the Butler Talk and the faculty forums, we used everything in a Zoom and a virtual format. At the top of the page, you'll see the number of Zoom forums that we did for employees this past year was 36. That would have been faculty and staff altogether, but 184 hours that we spent talking with faculty and staff across the college about different things. We also, down at the very bottom, continue to implement professional development training opportunities for staff. Laura's done a really great job working on some professional development with a core group of administrative assistants this past year, and we want to expand that to a broader base. But again, kind of COVID related. We just didn't get to it, and it's difficult to launch those sometimes in a virtual format and have them be real successful. So one of the other things that's both on the staff and the student area, support additional mental health services and EAP program to address escalating needs. We're hopeful this next year that we'll be able to use some HERF funding, set up a kind of a grant funded position, a short-term grant funded position to hire additional staff to help in the mental health area to assist students and staff. So we talk about contributing to our communities. Again, you can look at the priorities in those areas, the bold-faced on the next 2 pages, 3 priorities in those areas. And a couple of things, again, that I want to point out to you. Some of these, again, were COVID impacted. We couldn't get out in the communities in a really strong way, like under 1B, to do expanded community service. We did have our Grizzly Give Back Days spread out over a week, but you know, just because of the protocols and things that were in place, it was difficult to be face to face in a lot of different arenas. And so, you know, we figured that we were about 50% complete on that, but ongoing. Implementing an electronic repository for all the articulation agreements. Lori's office and Peggy Krause, especially, who's our director of curriculum, did a lot of work this past year moving those into an electronic repository. Continuing to work on CEU training opportunities this past year. Again, there was some desire to nursing and some of those areas to do some new CEU things. Most of the ones that we embedded this past year were in an electronic format or a virtual format again. Engaging the community members and college stakeholders through strategic communication and visioning. Again, we have some direct communication with those service area stakeholders and for academic and financial and student success. In workforce, we have community newsletter that goes out on a regular basis. And we were able to have conversations with folks in virtual formats, but again, not as much in face-to-face formats. And then down below, providing return on investment, you can read down through those. We're utilizing our EMSI research market study. We used that this past year. You saw a little bit of it on the cards that Tom was talking about, and it's information that we've posted to our website, and that's part of our community newsletters. And then on the back page, advancing institutional effectiveness. A lot of these priorities, at least the first priority, we really kind of have turned over to Inclusion Council to do these because they relate to addressing sustainable diversity, equity, and inclusion culture at Butler. We have an Inclusion Council that includes about, I think, 60 members from across the college. And our goal with Inclusion Council is to have them help us develop a really robust strategic plan that really focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. They did some forums with students and staff to better understand barriers and needs. They've also done some work, Inclusion Council has done some work to start to expand some direct training. We're looking at how we advertise differently and how we revise our hiring processes to hopefully hire on folks that are of different ethnicities or different backgrounds. We want our staff and faculty to reflect our student population. And so, we're looking at some of those strategies. And then, like under priority number 2, we've already started the process to prepare for the comprehensive preparation for our FY 2023 Higher Learning Commission visit. That's a huge project and a huge lift to get ready for, but we've already started. Folks have started that process. 2C, develop long-term financial plan to address deferred maintenance. Some of these areas are places where the stimulus funding will help us address some of those things that we haven't been able to address in the past. And so, this is the annual update for you of the current strategic plan. We'll bring forward for you coming up. The Exec Council had our strategic planning retreat a week ago, and we'll bring forth some ideas for you so you can give us some input on some things, and we'll show you the things that we talked about and the things that we're envisioning for the college, but certainly want your input. We'll do that over the next July and August and go from there. So I'd answer questions if you've got some. Be happy to, but take these home and look through them and let me know if you've got some other questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Thank you very much, Dr. Kroll. We will move on to the 1600 building, and I think we talked a little bit about that, but that meeting was what you.
Yeah, we did not. We had our capital projects meeting scheduled for last week, and we had to cancel it because a number of us attended Donna Whiteside's funeral, who is a longtime Butler employee. And so I know Laura was working today to try and get the next meeting rescheduled. We want to have it before the August board meeting. The 1600 building is the old Educare building, and the vision that we want to talk with capital projects team about, and we want to talk with the board about, is being able to utilize that building as a joint space that's shared between public safety and our criminal justice program. We believe that there's some great collaborative opportunities to support the criminal justice program and be able to bring people in from the outside for training and utilize that space in kind of a unique and different way than how it's been used in the past. And so capital projects team, when we meet, we will have some initial design, stuff to start off with. Vince went through and walked through there and talked with faculty and public safety and kind of just, gave us some ideas about how that building could be reconfigured a little bit on the inside and have some initial, kind of cost things, but nothing much beyond that. But we want Jake and Jake Kenny, who's our chief of police, and Miles Erpelding, who's the department chair in criminal justice, to be able to be part of that meeting as well, and kind of talk about their joint vision for that space. So I think Laura's still working on the scheduling for that meeting, correct? July 26th is what you think? Okay. That's the same day as our special meeting. So, yeah. Okay. So watch for because I think Julie and Doug are part of capital projects team from the board, correct?
You know about
Dr.
what
Kroll?
time?
It'll be in the morning.
So I gotta make 2 trips.
Well, you could spend the day with us if you want to.
No.
No. Okay.
Dr. Kroll,
Well-
have you found out any more information on the Educare auction that went on?
Yes. And you know what? The number right off the top of my head is not going to come to me, but I think it was. Do you remember $27,000? I think they raised $27,000 in auctioning all of that off.
Great.
Yeah, Jeremy Sundgren did that for us.
Thank you.
So
Any other questions for Dr. Kroll? I think that'll be revisited after the meeting.
we'll
the,
get it.
uh,
We'll get
August
this on
meeting.
the August
I did have
agenda.
a question asked Bill maybe a month or two ago. Are we going to auction off like all the projectors and stuff we've replaced over the last year? Is that coming up as well sometime?
There's general public auction.
Yeah, I just like to know when that is.
Okay.
Whenever it is.
Other questions? If not, we will move on to the electrical and infrastructure arc flash assessment renovation.
Yeah, Lynn, you could come up to the microphone. Well, I guess there's no microphone up there now.
Right. I've got two.
My notes. You guys got that information, I believe, in front of you, the topic for information on our electrical infrastructure and our flash assessment.
You may have to tip the microphone up just a little bit. I just want to make sure that people can hear you, Lynn.
All
Sorry
right.
to interrupt.
Can you hear me now?
Speak right into it.
All right. Anyway, I guess I should say, my name's Lynn. I'm Holtz. I'm the Director of Facilities. And just going to give you an overview of what you got in front of you about the information that we want to discuss tonight, bring to your attention. In March of this year, we was doing a work project and we had to pull open an electric conduit box. And once we pulled the lid off, we looked inside of it and the conduit within this box was deteriorated to a point where we had exposed wires in the box. This box was actually, would get water in it and leak into another electrical box inside the 500 building. At this point, we called Bill's Electric out. We thought maybe we could do a quick repair of this. He came out, analyzed it, and said, "You guys, you got some major problems here. The electric in 500 is also hooked up to a loop system. The whole infrastructure of our buildings, which is 6 other buildings that are hooked into this. And so if we upgrade the 500 building, it's going to have to upgrade, bring up to code all the other buildings in that process." And so when he told her that, we got a hold of PEC and Gravity Works, had him come out. We wanted another assessment on this. They basically verified what Bill's Electric had told us, that this infrastructure loop is out there. And if we're going to do one project at the 500, it's going to affect everything. So we asked them at that time to give us an estimate. The estimate was like $856,000 plus some dollars. So we said, well, let's get a solid bid. And so they're working on an RFP right now to present to the board next August, so we can give you a solid number on that. And so along with that, we had also, they were finishing up, PEC was finishing up an arc flash assessment, and they were giving us recommendations on what they found. And basically, put it all in a nutshell, all of our panels in these buildings and the breakers will need to be updated. Panels are like 20 years old, and then you're supposed to update them. Our breakers, they last about 15 years, and you're supposed to update them. Our buildings are 60 years old. These things it needs replacement. So I'd just like to let the board be informed and think about a deferred maintenance program when we're talking about it, that we might include this in part process.
Is this already on our deferred maintenance plan?
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The extra
electrical
buildings too.
infrastructure is.
Yes.
Now, the deferred maintenance on the breakers and panels, we just found that out, so I don't believe that's on there.
Well, I think what's on your deferred maintenance plan that we put in front of you shows $1.5 million that we were thinking, we would need to allocate. So it does include, because we were thinking that the arc flash assessment would come back. And so it is already embedded on that deferred maintenance. And the plan is to use some of the HERF funding, some of the stimulus funding. We're still waiting, if I remember right, you're still waiting on costs from Evergy. Is that correct?
Yes, and this estimate was included on the Evergy
Okay.
bid. So
Okay.
yeah, it'll be an electrical contractor working with Evergy to get this project done.
Okay.
So
So we've
included
already
in there.
been talking about it, and it's already on that
Right.
deferred maintenance
So
list.
that's,
Yeah.
again, that's the estimate. When we get the hard numbers, we can bring them back to you guys.
Right.
Say, hey, this is what it actually is.
How long would it take to update all the buildings? Are we talking 3 months or 1 week?
Oh,
I don't have that. I would say, if I was going to guess, I would say probably about 90 days. They act like they could actually do a building at a time. And so we wouldn't be down all over campus, excuse me. But 90 days, maybe 120 days. Sure. So
Is it safe for now?
it is safe. If something fails, the problem will be if something fails, it could interfere with all of our buildings.
Gotcha. Because
Just the normal wear and tear, they said it could actually fail. But I wouldn't worry about it failing right now, but because it's probably been running this way for I don't know, years.
but that's why it's the number one thing on the deferred maintenance list.
Yeah.
It's the very first line, is
Safety.
because it's got to get
It's got to
done.
be repaired,
Yeah.
guys. We don't have an option.
no, I'm not suggesting by any means that you
Yeah.
put it off. I was just curious. It would be
Yeah.
an emergency situation.
At this point, it's not. Any
Other-
questions?
Other questions for Lynn?
Does 1.5 million, does that include all the box upgrades that you're talking about?
At the time, it didn't, but with the 1.5 million that's already been allocated, I believe we can use that for those boxes and panels. Does that make sense to you? I mean, I might not have made that clear.
So-
Yeah, I'm just confused. Is it on the list or not? Is the whole
It is.
thing on the capital or the improvement list?
What we know right now,
Yeah,
with
it is.
these costs, what we know right now, that would fold into that $1.5 million that's on the list. That's what we are estimating. He's got a little over $1.1 million here. So, hopefully there's enough on that deferred maintenance list to cover all of that. See when the bids come back.
Lynn, I'm still not familiar with where every building is. The 500 building is the what building?
But that's our athletic building
Oh,
over there.
athletic. Okay, thank you.
And then you got your 200, your 300, your 400, 500, 600, 7, and the 900. So
It's all the
that's
original
all
buildings.
included.
All the hundreds.
That's the big loop. That's
Okay,
the original buildings, basically.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Appreciate the
Thank
update.
you,
We'll look
Lynn.
forward to the bids and so forth. So we will move on then to board action items. The first one is the resolution for refinancing.
Kent's here and
There's John. Hey, John, how are you?
Great.
I'll just introduce John Haas. He's our financial advisor. He's been helping us do these kind of deals for most of the 30 years that I've been here. And yeah, when he gets a smile on his face, I know we had a successful bid, and he's smiling today. So we're pleased about that. I think you're going to be pleased with the numbers that he gives you. Just maybe to steal a little bit of his thunder, I think when he started talking to us about this about 6 months ago, he was hopeful that we could get savings, I think, in the $225,000 to $250,000. It's a one-time savings. We're taking an upfront savings. And I think he's going to tell you it's closer to $300,000 this month.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's always good to be here. I think I've shared, but Kent, I'm basically retired. I just help community colleges now. And because you guys are so good to work with, really easy to work with. You make my job easy. I'll stick with you. Anyway, today at 11, or excuse me, at 10, we received 3 bids with the refunding COPs. This is the first page for Table A. You'll see that First Bankers Bank Securities at the lowest bid with a net interest cost of 0.7996%. Country Club Bank was next closest at 0.385%. A net interest cost differential of about $6,700. So the second page, Table B, is the bid the First Bankers Bank submitted to us today. Now, you'll see that there in the far right-hand column, this thing says dollar price. They're paying a premium for your COPs, and we had them bid at a par. So we had to do a little restructuring. And if you want to learn about premium bonds someday, let me know. We'll take you to school on it. But what does this mean is the most important question. If you turn to Table 1, this is the outstanding 2013B COP. Interest rates range from 2.5% to 3.6%. You know, since I've been in the business since '84, you think, how in the world would you ever refinance that and have material savings? Well, let's just continue. Table 2 is that we sold one bond issue or COP, but we're segregating it to apply to 2 different bond issues that's being refunded. So you can see what the net savings is for each of those refunded bond issues. So for example, on the premiums, if I'm remembering right, a 2% coupon with a premium of 102 is a yield cost of 0.2%. So that's why we can have interest rates of 2 and your net interest cost is 0.8 basically. It's because of the premium structure. Table 3 is where we like to go. Kent was talking about an upfront savings. Basically, your payment due for these 11/1 of 22 is $492,000, but you're only going to pay $193,000. So the net savings is $256,599.54.
I'm lost.
Okay,
I just lost you.
okay, we'll go back there. See the first line, 2022, and you're on Table 3.
No, not.
Oh, okay,
That could be the problem. Okay,
there you go.
all right.
Okay, see if you look at period ending 2022, that's your current, or your, yeah, it's your current fiscal year. Your outstanding debt service, your payment due on 11/1 of 21 is $492,325. But due to the refunding, you're only going to pay $193,414.35. So that those monies that were collected to make debt service payments, the $256,599, can be used for other purposes within whatever your rules and regulations are. And typically this time of year, everybody's been wanting upfront savings. Hey, save us as much money as you can this year and keep the payments the same going forward. And that's basically what we do. Everybody wants cash right now. That was Kent's recommendation. At some point, you guys had agreed with that. Another question, down at the bottom, the present value savings is $257,717. This is kind of a rule of thumb issue. It's 8.4% of the debt refunded, before its maturity date. Generally speaking, we have folks look at it at 3% or better. You're at 8, almost 3 times the amount. So this is a really good deal. This one I was never worried about, a little bit. But this was a good deal for the college to do that. One typical question that I get, I know somebody's itching to ask, John, is this net of your expenses? The answer is yes. If you go to table 4, all the expenses are listed here, the underwriter's discount, all the fees associated with the transaction. All those have been paid for out of the bond issue. The differential between your old payments or new payments, take all this into account. The savings to the college is the amount that we discussed with that. Any questions about refinancing the 2013 Bs? Okay, next we have the 2013. The interest rates for these, you'll see, is from 2 to 3%. Again, very low, lower than the 2013 Bs because it's a shorter issue. It's amortized over a shorter period of time. Table 6 is the allocated portion of the refunding bond issue that's allocated to the 2013 issue. And you'll see on table 7 that the savings from refinancing this is about $40,000. 40,000 here, 40,000 there, begins to add up. Originally, when we got started, my estimate was 22,000. So this one went from a, yeah, I can't, do you want to do it or not? And it's like, yeah, let's give it a roll and see what happens. It became a 3.37% PV. Very worthwhile endeavor for the college. Table 8, we're still talking about net, not gross. I tell people that's one of the 2 things I taught my kids. It's net, not gross. So cost efficiency applicable to refinance in 2013. Now what we have on table 9 is the combined debt service to maturity, which matches the revamped bid form. And again, it's different than the bid that was given only because of the premium structure. So I negotiated with the underwriters to restructure it. They were fine with it. There was no problem doing that. And then table 10 is just combined sources and uses of funds. Now, if the board decides that they wish to proceed, this evening there's 2 steps that you need to take. The first step is to accept the bid from First Bankers Bank. And I've got copies of that.
There's two issues together. It's approximately $300,000.
Right. Okay. Is to accept the bid from First Bankers Bank at a net interest cost of 0.8034%. If you wish to proceed. The second step is to approve a resolution that authorizes the staff and bond counsel and officers of the board to enter into legal agreements to affect the finalization of the transaction. All those things were approved by the resolution itself. Questions that the board may have for me at this point in time? I don't know if any of you guys, I don't know if Kim, Dr. Kroll was in the business back then, but Dr. Grody from
Garden City.
Liberal,
Yeah.
yeah,
Seward.
Liberal,
Uh-huh.
once told me, he goes, I'd rather have somebody lucky than good. That's kind of like, but we had done a refunding. He said, Don, you're awful lucky. I am.
Question, John. At Country Club Bank and Davidson and Company, where are they out of?
Country Club Bank is in the Kansas City area, and I believe Davidson is out of Nebraska, somewhere in that area, Iowa, Nebraska.
So did your proposal go out to every bank in Kansas, or do you wait?
It
see
went
what their
to all-
assets?
It went to all investment banking firms in the region.
Okay.
That would be in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma because of the size and the shortness of the deal. And I don't run the back office anymore, but it was also supposed to go to all the local banks too. Give them the opportunity to do it. Pardon?
Do you know if it actually did?
I would assume they do. People
You don't
do, but the people do what they're supposed to.
They certainly gave the information.
Yeah, that's always a priority to make sure that local institutions have the opportunity to bid on it. But no, I try not to micromanage those guys. Do your jobs, and sometimes I have had to chew them out before. But no, they do their job. But that's a good question.
Like, you think you're ready to proceed? One thing you started by approving the resolution, which you just read out of the book. And then John, we need to walk through the second motion to approve the actual bid. So if you'd like to make a motion.
Well, I would prefer that the bid be approved
Accept it
first.
first.
Uh-huh. And the motion would go something like this. I move to approve the bid from First Bankers Bank for the sale of $4,345,000 principal of COPs at a net interest cost of 0.8034%.
I would like to move that, and that's what John said.
And I'll second.
All right, we've got a,
Or we can help you get that.
it's been moved and seconded to accept the bid for the bond resolution. Any other discussions or questions for John in regards to that?
It's not the resolution, though.
Now,
Or it's the
this is
bid, I'm
for
sorry.
bid.
Just the bid.
If not, Laura, if you want to go ahead and call the
Trustee
roll.
Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Howell,
Yes.
and trustee Smith.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Motion passes. And then the second motion is the resolution that is in the book, correct? So we could entertain a motion for that.
I would move that we approve resolution 21-9. Do I need to read the resolution language? So it's
Go ahead,
a
yeah.
resolution authorizing Butler County Community College to enter into a lease transaction, the proceeds of which will be used to pay the cost of refinancing certain building improvements on the college campus in El Dorado, Kansas, and approving the execution of certain documents in connection therewith.
Very nice.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resolution authorizing the Butler Community College lease transaction. Any other questions or discussions in regards to that?
Just to thank you for all the volunteer work.
Hey, you know what? There is a little bit of conflict of interest. I live in Butler County and two of my kids have gone here. So we want to make sure that we save you as much money as possible.
Yay.
If not, Laura, I will go ahead and let you call the roll.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Howell,
Yes.
and trustee Smith.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I know you have
Motion
a very
passes.
busy schedule, but there's one thing I'd like for the board chair and the secretary to do is sign the bond bid form. SEC regulations are really hard on timing of when things are done. So if I may.
Well, John's,
John, Doug's got it. We'll sign that for the chair.
He
so
can't
while we're getting these signatures, I do need to warn you, Lance,
What's that, Kent?
that there'll be a whole series of other documents that are going to need your signature. Kevin Cowan, the attorney, emailed those to me today. So I think we have this work session and special meeting 2 weeks from yesterday. So I'll have those documents at that time. And I think you as the chair and Forrest as the secretary treasurer will need to sign those documents.
Okay, we can talk about that. Personnel retirements. I think is,
Yeah, we have a number of retirements on the agenda, and I think I've got a couple of people that are ready to talk about some folks. So I think Randy Bush is the first one.
I know, watch it there. Yeah, there's a big file. I know.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone.
Appreciate.
Shelley, or who was it?
it. I can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Shelley's not here tonight. Randy Bush has been a full-time international academic advisor for his career. And I think Jessica is going to tell us a little bit about Randy.
Yes, good evening. Randy Bush has worked in our academic advising office as an international advisor for 20 years. He is our point of contact for our SEVIS. And that deals with all of the government information that is necessary in order for us to have international students. And his knowledge and expertise will definitely be missed. In addition, he also has spearheaded the international night where they bring in different cuisine from the different countries that our students come from, and have a lot of fun with that. He has also taken several groups on trips in Europe and other countries across the world. So his expertise and knowledge will be missed by our academic advisors. Thank you.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to accept Randy Bush's retirement.
I so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie. If you want to go ahead and call the roll, Laura.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Howell? And Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
The motion passes. Anybody to speak on behalf of?
Yep, I
Kim?
think Lori's going to speak on the behalf of Kim Carr, who's a full-time chemistry instructor who is going to retire.
So good evening, everyone. Can you hear this? Okay. Kim Carr started in 1997 as a chemistry instructor. She was one of the first full-time faculty I hired as Dean of Math, Science, Physical Education Division. A couple of years after getting hired, she was the one that put our basic chemistry class online when we were first beginning our online program. And she went to a conference and presented doing chemistry in your pajamas. And so Kim has been a wonderful instructor, has been here for a long time, and I'm very proud of the work that she's done over those years.
Thank you, Lori. I would entertain a motion to accept Kim Carr's resignation.
Motion. So.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then moved and seconded to accept Kim Carr's resignation. Laura, if you want to go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Howell?
Yes.
And Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Motion passes. And moving on to Teresa Long's retirement.
Teresa has currently has been a full-time administrative assistant in HEP.
Yes, well, not in HEP, but she's been up at the fire station and supported our EMS and fire science program. I know she's done something else here at the college, but my memory is not pulling up that particular position.
Yeah, she was in accounts payable.
Oh, okay. I knew there was something I just couldn't remember. We stole her from student services. We often do that, and then they steal people back from us. So Teresa has been great for the students up at the fire station. She's kind of the house mom up there, so to speak, and has kept the fire station running over the last couple of years. So she will also be very much missed.
She was the one we recognized last month that helped the lady that came in off of the sidewalk that was not feeling well at all. So yeah.
So I move we accept the retirement of Teresa Long.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the retirement of Teresa Long. Laura, if you want to go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Howell?
Yes.
And Trustee Smith?
Yes. Motion passes. And the
Gary
retirement
Royce.
of Gary
Yep.
Royce. Is that
Gary's
correct?
been an academic advisor for a number of years. I think Bill's going to tell us.
Yeah, I've known Gary for about 40 years. He was at Neosho Community College before he came to Butler. He's been at Butler for 25 years as an academic advisor. He's been our lead advisor here on the El Dorado campus. He's worked with all kinds of students. He's done a marvelous job. He's very engaged with our students and with all the student services. He's probably most known for his Halloween costumes. If you really want to know the truth, he does a great job of being engaged and a team member. We're really going to miss Gary. I know fine arts kids that our vocal music kids always went to Gary, and he's done a great job with them. And they had a book, and a lot of the fine arts kids signed that book to leave it for Gary for his retirement. So he's really going to be missed, but he's been a strong Butler advocate and a great resource for our students. So
Great.
I hate to see him go. I told him he could play follow the leader, but he didn't want to do that.
Thank you, Bill. I would entertain a motion for Gary Roy. Oh, no, that's it. Okay, Gary Royce's retirement.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to accept Gary Royce's retirement. Laura, if you want to go ahead and call the
Trustee
roll.
Good, after visiting with his lovely wife, please note that I am voting no. Trustee Law,
Oh, Mary Martha. Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Howell,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
I think he was hopeful that he would be the first person in college history to not have a unanimous vote for his retirement.
Well,
So-
he-
That's
so you
exactly
fulfilled
true.
that wish.
Gary asked me if I could get one of the board members to vote no. So thanks, Mary Martha. I appreciate it.
The motion still passes. So we will move on to the item that was removed from the consent agenda, the affirmation of legal service provider. I think Shelby, you had some questions or thoughts
No,
on.
I just wanted to vote outside.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comment on that as we removed it from the consent agenda? If not, Laura, go ahead and call the roll.
Oh,
Do you need a
well,
Oh, we need a motion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
motion.
actually. Sorry.
what's the motion?
We need a
Someone else.
motion to approve.
I move that we approve the appointment of legal service provider to Connell and Connell.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the legal service provider of Cannell and Cannell. Any discussion?
Yes, please help me out on this. I've slept. Why do we need a motion?
It was
Well,
part of
it-
the consent agenda, which would normally, we don't discuss or vote on it. At the beginning of the meeting, shall be asked to have it removed and voted on
I just
separately.
haven't seen eye to eye with them on a few things
I
over the
see.
last 16 months. I didn't want to vote no on the consent agenda.
All right,
But
thank
also
you,
didn't
Shelley.
want to take a discussion during consent agenda. So this is just a way to pull it out. and vote.
Thank you.
We're ready for the roll call vote.
Trustee Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow? Trustee Howell?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Nope.
Passes 5-2.
Motion passes. And so I would
So
entertain a
I'd like to
motion.
move that we adopt the approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, or if you could.
Trustee
the roll.
Good? Yes. Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes,
Trustee Winslow?
Yes.
Trustee Howell?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
the consent agenda passes and we'll move on to, I think, supplemental information is next, correct?
Starting on page 203, you have again the report on the performance indicators. That's typically in your board book. This time of year, we don't put in a statement of revenues and expenditures because it's year end and they're closing out the books and everything, some thank you notes, and then the college calendar is what follows. And again, note the special board meeting on the 26th at 4:30. Laura will notice that up and get that information to folks, and then August board meeting. And boy, we'll
And just
be ready for the start of school.
as a point of reference, it just needs to be noted that that special board meeting will be the notice of public hearing. It doesn't say that in your board book, but it will be the approval of the notice of public.
Thanks.
So you said 4:30.
Yes,
That's what
not
on the calendar,
I have 4 o'clock.
I'm sorry, give me that date again. The
July
26th.
26th. It's on page
Okay, I already
205.
got it.
Anything else there?
Oh, that's what I have.
That's right. They changed it because-
If not, I would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
After a brief break.
If we need to, yeah, we can certainly, we'll take a 5-minute
Thank
break.
you.
and then we'll come back.
I so moved. For how long? How long's the
Take
executive
a break
session?
or go into executive session.
We need to start over.
We can't put both of those in the
No.
motion.
We need to start over.
No, we'll take
why
a
don't-
5-minute break.
Why don't you take a break and then we'll
Then we'll
come
come
back and do the motion
Perfect.
to go to executive.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're much appreciated.
I like these guys to be very
Be careful, guys.
Gotta address the question.
I'll make myself. Thanks, Terry.
Getting ready to do a lot of travel. Next 40 days. New York, Boston, California, Florida. There's some places I want to go. No, I just like fly in. hope
That's right.
the Flight gets there.
That's right.
Not fly. But, the problem is with the new bench is all this time in the office. She doesn't want to go. I said, hey, why don't you do the Boston trip? Boston. Like you go. So, I was thinking all my young associates go, but one of them got something going on.
30.
So I did, the other one's like break.
You think you
Anything so we go to do it, go anywhere during that time. It put me on plans. That would be good.
It's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
It's not ours, like.
I talked to him.
30 minutes.
You know what? We would.
Love the guy. When he's lonely and wants to talk, here's the jam. Like, sort of have a segue out. It's impossible.
Yeah, he had to tell me his interpretation.
It's freezing in here. But I sat with, I've had my blanket around me all day long though. So.
87
What?
I said if it were 87 degrees.
I like hot weather. I'm not an air conditioning fan at all.
But this guy apparently yelled like I was there.
Of course, that would be wrong.
Yeah.
An extremely. Not a hobby.
I think the 5 minutes is up, right? Great plans. I have the verbiage. It's on in the next page. No, on your. Ready? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Doug.
Do we have enough people?
do you have,
I think
we're
we're-
missing Julie. Do you think she would object if I moved?
You
I have-
probably would. I would wait. That's just my suggestion.
I think that's.
We can, yeah, we can wait.
Process.
What happened?
30 minutes. Cut myself shaving.
Just about got your jugular.
Yeah, I got close. Thought I was gonna lean down. Just didn't want to get it on my shirt.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Law.
I would like to move the board recess into executive session in regards to confidential student information pursuant to the open meetings exception for matters affecting a student, a person as a student, which if discussed in an open meeting might violate their right to privacy, and that the board and President Kroll be included. The open meeting will resume in 30 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Oh, you can, Mr. Howell.
No, I think
No.
It's been moved and
Howell.
seconded to move into executive session for Doug's motion. We'll go ahead and call the roll.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Leichenberg,
Yes.
trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Wait like a minute or something. Although, no.
Okay, so passes.
We're moving
5-1.
into executive session.
We won't start this. I would still get the motion.
I get it.
It takes a little while.
You're gonna treat yourself. right? When do you start your new job?
Not until the second. We have a new international student coming on the 26th. So it's like basically I go from, one crazy life to another.
You're hosting the board exchange.
Yeah.
That's good. We'll go.
How many times have you done that?
This is just our second because so we got kids from France and this.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. He's hockey crazy too. You'll be glad to know that. So I can have
Another-
How old is he?
17.
And where will he go to school? At Remington.
Are we back in session?
Are we back for?
We are.
Okay, so we are back in regular session and I would entertain a motion to adjourn, I believe.
I would motion that.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Laura, if you would call the roll.
Trustee Good.
Yes.
Trustee Law.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Winslow. Yep. Trustee Howell.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. And so now we will move into the budget work session. I think Kent has some information for us as it relates to the budget.
We keep losing people.
Well, he was gonna eat while we were in exec session. That was an extremely short one, so he's.
He was finishing eating, so.
Okay.
Now I was expecting a catered meal or something, weren't you?
I think there's one in the back room. Yeah.
You guys could probably try to get those out and eat them if you want to while we're talking. Right? Or,
Yeah.
sure. Anybody interested in that?
Sure.
I'll probably take mine to go. Is it individually boxed still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's still.
No, I'm just gonna clear it out.
Yep, we're waiting on you. Are you done eating? Okay. They're gonna get their little box lunches. And I think there's some, I don't know, Laura. Oh, yeah. I told Laura I didn't. She took orders for her ones themselves.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wasn't sure who all got them, Laura.
I'm not sure either. I have to go look. Surely you know if you got one or not, right? I mean,
Laura asked, she was the.
Ask her.
Most of the time, a box
No,
lunch is not a
I'm going
salad.
to Willie's with Bill.
And I know that it was a salad.
First meeting. We always do that.
I'm not gonna eat it right now.
All she said, I think box lunch. And I go,
I get a sandwich.
yeah.
No, sorry about that.
I don't have any.
Kent, I think as soon as everybody's sat back down, we'll be ready for your information.
You can have mine if you'd like it.
I don't.
They offered me one, I'm just. Thank you.
Well, Lori, if you've got extras, Lori said she'd have one. Here, there's an extra.
There's an extra.
Are you sure?
And Doug, you got yours? Yeah.
That,
Save one for Doug.
I guess I can take it home. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, there's one in there.
Oh,
Oh, I'll take a dress.
thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
I think I might need to sign this. Yeah.
One of your Italian students.
Unless somebody.
I did order one, but she just texted me and said, thank you.
Okay.
Shelby, are you making sure the ranch hasn't turned?
Well, make sure it wasn't blue cheese. I've got a weird thing. I smell everything before I eat it. I don't know.
Hey,
It's not quite as bad as Raymond's brother that touches it, and everybody loves Raymond, but I always smell it before I eat it.
Unless you
There's some
want
times
your
where I wish I would have done that after I took a bite of it, so.
It saved me a few times.
I've got mine.
Asked that earlier, I think.
Yeah, I think you answered all my questions already.
You like paper?
This is the 18th, right? Or is it the 14th?
Thank you, Kim. Just to let everybody know, we're still remodeling.
What's the end date?
Oh, honey, we've had, Going out of town, isn't it?
Is
that why you keep leaving town?
Right, Martha, is it still just the front room? or is it on a
No,
different-
we're doing the front room and the kitchen. And then look what happened to me.
Whoa. No, thank you.
Wow.
I know,
What happened to you?
poison ivy.
Oh, no.
They want to take me to the hospital and admit me, and I said, there's no way, you guys can't do anything about it.
Did
Oh,
you get it on
no.
your hands and not know it?
But I'm so allergic to it.
Really? That's awful.
Yeah. How come you didn't call?
Mm, That's awful.
Yeah, you better get this and be hands up.
Oh, honey, you're the best.
Thanks.
You will be missed.
Shelby, you should see what they found on that wall.
Old newspapers?
Snake skin,
Oh,
drawings,
Yeah.
sayings.
uh-oh.
So is this like ancient drawings,
Yes.
prehistoric type?
Well, it's 170 years old, so you
Oh,
can
wow.
imagine.
Wow.
Anything written in German?
No, the German
far as the
prisoners
sign.
built our barns
Where did they reside?
Castle.
in a little campground around there. You can see the rocks where they all probably sat or
Merced.
something.
Sounds interesting.
Uh-huh.
So it was an internment camp?
Yes. Prisoner
Really?
of war. Not our house.
Oh, yeah. Victorville, I was
I,
in there.
I guess this is probably being recorded, I would assume.
Yes.
Recording it, not live.
Yes, just be recorded.
Keep your mics on.
You know, I'll go ahead. I passed out two separate documents. The first one looks like this. It says operating budget summary. So we'll talk about that one briefly. On the front page, there's two sections. There's the summary for FY 2021, the year that just ended. And then the budget recommendation for FY 2022. And the columns here, first set of numbers are the numbers that we showed you at the June 28th work session. And the column on the right hand is the update today for year end. We did the year end close, of course, on June 30th. So I'll just start at the top there. And you see the operating revenues. When we closed the books, we ended up $584,000 more revenue in the operating funds than we had anticipated. There's a breakdown of that on the next page, but basically it's almost all in the student sources. And we think that came in a lot higher because our collections were up. That's the only thing we can think of right now. Because the credit hours don't indicate that we would get that much revenue. But we do know that students received quite a bit of stimulus funds this year. So that's our best estimate right now, that student collections were significantly up. I mean, this is a significant amount. So we'll do more checking on that, but that's our thought on that at this time. Then if you go down to line 3 in that section.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Part of that student collection, and the finance committee heard this, part of that student collection is that we think also students had stimulus funding available to them. And so we believe that what they did probably was to take that stimulus funding and turn around and pay their bills, their outstanding bills. That's why it's probably greater this year than it's really ever been before at this point in time. So we think that the stimulus funding, that they use that to pay their bills.
And I have a question. You sent out some checks as refunds and so forth. Did some of those come back as well?
That first.
Endorsed.
No, the first payments that went out to students had to go directly to students to be used for whatever they wanted. The CARES 2 money, the HERF 2 money, there was latitude in that funding, on the student side, they could request that those be applied directly to their bill. And if they did that, then they didn't take a check and then turn around and send it back to us. If they wanted it applied directly to their bill, then we did that internally. But if they wanted the payment to come directly to them, then we sent the check to them, and then they
Did
could
you
use
have
it for what.
several? that-
We did, yeah. I'd have to ask Jessica how many, but we had a number of them that said that they wanted to apply
Well, that's
directly.
good. At least they
Yeah.
want to pay their debt.
So the next big item there is on line 3, the anticipated unspent budget. I know we've talked about this in the past, and we increased our estimate from 2% to 3%. That's the $1.5 million on line 3. When we talk about not doing the furloughs, at that same time we increased the unspent budget. Well, it turned out that 3% was a very low estimate. It's actually almost 6%. So we underspent the operating budget by $2,946,000. And so when you take those, and we've got a couple of sheets here on page 3 and 4 of this information, where we talk a little bit or show you some of the areas that were underspent. And we think a good deal of that is because this was an unusual year and because of the way we operated during the pandemic. But if you take the revenue increase and the higher unspent budget down on line 5, we're actually we made a change of right at $2 million. So our unencumbered cash, if you go down to line 7, at the end of the year, at June 30th, we were had a budget based on ending unencumbered cash at $10,416,000, and it actually ended up at $12,441,000. Now there will be some changes to this once Kim and her staff go through and get ready for the audit. There's always audit adjustments, but generally these unaudited figures at this time are pretty close. So that's what we will use to prepare the legal budget and the notice of public hearing, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. So if you go down to the lower section, this is the recommended budget for next year, operating budget. And we're not making any changes to that as far as the operations, the revenues or expenditures. And on line 6, we did talk to you at the last work session about adding or taking $1 million out of the operating fund, putting it into a designated fund to help with self-funded health insurance. With the additional $2 million that came in or that we realized when we closed the books on line 7, we're going to recommend in the budget plan for next year that we take that $2 million and put it into designated accounts. And there's 4 specific things we talked about in the VP meeting this morning that we think that could be used for. And it's down at a note at the very bottom of the page. We think it might be good to add more to deferred maintenance. We know that when we showed you the deferred maintenance list on the 28th of June, the estimated total at that time was a little over $10 million. Plus, we know that there are going to be stadium repairs and repairs to the city field that we didn't have an amount for. So, and in the HERF money, the federal COVID money, in the plan that we showed you on June 28th, we were allocating a little over $4 million against that $10 million deferred maintenance. So that's something that we want to look at, possibly put some more money to deferred maintenance. The self-funded health insurance, we did through this $1 million transfer that we showed you on June 28th, plus an extra like 500,000, I think, goes up any additional needs. We're going to fund that at $1.5 million. We want to take a look at that. We could take some of the money out of this $2 million. We could increase that, help sustain that self-funded insurance even longer at a higher rate. And if eventually we get to a point where we get our claims under control, then that money can come back to the employees and to the college through lower health premiums. Two other things. One thing I'll mention, debt service reserve. We know that we can always take money, put it aside, and then keep it to pay off our debt. We can't always pay it in advance because these bonds and COPs have call provisions. But if we have a reserve, then we can help our budget in that way. The fourth thing, I think I'll let Dr. Kroll talk about this, is possibly we talked to you about taking some money, I think about $100,000 out of the HERF fund for an innovation fund, but in our discussion this morning, we think it might be better or good for you to be able to put more money into that.
The Innovation Fund, we've talked about this a lot from the standpoint of not just academic programs, but technology advances and some of those kinds of things. Oftentimes something comes up in the middle of the year that would be a great initiative that might be something that would impact enrollment or move the college to a different level from a technology perspective or something like that. But we oftentimes, the great ideas, but we can't find the latitude or the flexibility in departmental budgets or someplace else in the budget to be able to address those needs. And so the opportunity to have some funding set aside in an innovation fund, and there would be guidelines for how that funding could be used. Lori academics has an academic program development fund, and there are specific guidelines about how those funds have to be used or can be used in a process that you go through to request those. So this innovation fund would be a similar format to that, but it certainly would be able to set some funds aside in a designated fund that would be used for very specific purposes, and we'd have to define those. But it would give us a little bit of flexibility to address some of those things that come up during the year that we haven't necessarily been able to launch or initiate because we haven't had the flexibility within departmental budgets to be able to do that. I don't know, Bill, any other thoughts from your end about the innovation fund?
No, I mean, I think a great example. A lot of times if we recognize or see some new technology or new opportunity, it's the startup of that is where the cost comes in. We've been really good. Certainly over the last 10 years since I've been here, and I'm sure before that as well, in trying to figure out where within the budget we are able to find the sustainability piece of it, but it's a startup cost, in a lot of these things. You buy some servers or, do whatever the innovation is or the new piece is, there's additional cost on the startup. We can generally budget for sustainability within our budget, but it's that initial startup that's been a challenge, and so it prevents us from moving forward.
I totally understand what you're talking about. At previous company, because the internal methods and process development, all of the requests for any technology advances like that, all the programs, anybody wanted to justify anything, they had to come through the person. I'm just asking, would that be under your umbrella? And how much do you think % of that would you want to request? Because that is something I'm really going to, I think that's really important to the college if it's in the right place.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying. So we have within our division, within the IS division, we do have some funds that we use as we build out these programs to help us with sustainability. I think the vision for the Innovation Fund extends beyond technology. And so it's going to go through we'll create the guidelines, and then it'll be managed through I would assume Dr. Kroll probably has a better answer than I do with this, but managed through the VP, the cabinet process, go through that vetting process as it meets the guidelines. But like I said, from a sustainability standpoint, we have those funds. So this extends beyond technology. It would include technology, but also extends well beyond.
It does, and you're right. But it also embraces any new methodologies. or
Absolutely.
any Processes.
Julie,
Yes.
I realize he's behind you, but if you want anybody to be able to hear what you're saying on
Take
the
the microphone
recording,
with you.
take the microphone with
really
you.
care
just
if anybody heard what I
Okay,
said.
That's fine. I wanted you to be aware that
I know. I thought about that when I turned around. I thought, oh, well, they can just hear this.
I appreciate that though, and I totally understand that process. And I think as we develop those guidelines, Dr. Kroll talked about it this morning, as we develop those
Yeah.
guidelines that we manage through the cabinet, have to meet the criteria. We're not just gonna, be
dole it out.
doling
No.
out money. So
No, it would, and, Ken can speak to this too, that, the designated funds have very
Thank you.
specific purposes. And so you have to identify those on the front end and the process for which they can be used and stuff like that, so.
This is sort of off of the innovation fund and things like that, but something to do with the surpluses. Have we get any consideration or hearing from the marketing folks with all the competition that's out there right now about maybe increasing the marketing budget to try to get people?
We talked about that this morning, actually, as a matter of fact, in exec council. And, with the launch of the Kansas Promise Act and some things like that, Kelly has really had to parcel out her budget to address those things. And so, in a pie, when you're starting to carve things out, as she's had to address Kansas Promise and the launch of some of the new programs, then she takes away from other things. And so we did talk about that and the need to infuse additional dollars into the marketing budget. It's a competitive world out there. And if you're not on radio and on social media, and I don't think we do any TV, hardly any TV stuff. because
It's pretty
so
expensive, yeah.
We
I'd like
do
to hear
know
more about that.
yeah.
What they think would work.
Right,
and what
and
the
they've
cost
got all
would
the
be.
analytics. Yeah, they've got all the analytics.
I'd like to hear more about that because
Okay.
I think we really need to strengthen that
sustains,
budget.
look at it
Okay,
in function.
thank you.
And we did talk about how marketing and innovation in a strategic sense kind of
Yeah.
go together. So
Yeah, like the new programs, for example, we just got with the 2 new programs and put a little money in there to promote those as well as something that's new out there. Just, I think marketing would be.
Yeah, so here's a piece that kind of plays into what you're talking about. The event that we had on Saturday over in Andover, and I meant to mention this in my report tonight, but the Grizzly Go,
Right.
what do we call it, Grizzly Go? That was the open house. It's been all over social media. It was on how many different radio stations? 8 different radio stations, I think, just advertised all over the place. We enrolled 115 students. They enrolled 115 students and more than 1,000 credit hours in just that one day. There were 143 students that checked in, that signed in, but their parents and their family members didn't sign in as well. So it was a busy, busy day, but that's a direct result of really strong marketing and really strong messaging that was out there on social media, but on the radio and places like that, on the
It's
website.
so competitive now,
yeah.
even with 2 of the culinary programs firing up.
Yep.
Just things like that. I think we need to put a little bit more.
Kelly would be glad to hear you say that.
And actually tonight, I proposed a critical race non-endorsing of it. It was specifically to do that, to set Butler apart from everybody else. Say, we expect everything to be taught and discussed in college, but at least we don't endorse this. And everybody that's really worried about right now would have oh, hey, Butler said something about it. Let's look into Butler. It would have differentiated us from WSU Tech. We got culinary, they got culinary. We got construction, they got construction. Hey, we've got nursing. And people we got nursing too. So we're cheaper, we're more affordable, but I think it would have definitely set us apart in early July, and it would have caused some buzz to people to look at us. But that was my intention for that.
And I would encourage all trustees to
Investigate that.
Google, research, see what it's about. It's not good for our community college.
No, and I didn't
It'd be
even want to
good
get
for a
political about
research
it. I just wanted to say,
university.
hey, it's going to be talked about, but we don't endorse it. I mean, you can't get any milder than that.
I would just
stick to the budget discussion.
Well, we were talking about marketing, and that
Yep.
would have been marketing.
Go ahead, Ken.
My one question for Kent that I want to compare apples to apples. It's the mill levy, a big surprise. But last year, if we back out the capital mill levy of the budget that we approved for taxes, which was 14.4. So, I mean, it was total taxes levied was 14.4, including capital outlay. If we backed out the 189 I think it was closer to 12.9 million.
Yeah, I actually have those figures. That's in the next section.
Okay, okay,
I think I asked for those today, didn't I?
okay,
And we're almost there.
okay, all right.
I just want to point out the third and fourth page of this document is just some analysis. We look at where the budget was underspent because, you know, I think when we met on June 28th, I think I said, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we underspent more than what we have in there because that's normal. But, you know, this was a little more than expected. So we broke it down two ways. On page 3, it's by line item. And we just picked out unspent line items more than $50,000. So if you add these up, they're not going to come to these totals. But I did put the total subtotal of payroll and non-payroll just because I think that's of interest. And this is partly for you, but very much for the administration also to look at this and kind of see where that is and if we, well, what we glean from this information.
You said page 3?
Page 3, page 4. Page 4 is by department. Page 3 is by line item, but they're the same total unspent budget.
Is there going to be is there an internal review of whether, I'm not challenging anyone, but when you see this much that's unspent and we still ran the college, is there any indication here that there might be some budgets that don't need to be as big as they are because we could get by without all this?
We can look at them, but we also know again that there's a lot of infusion of federal stimulus dollars into these. And so like, you know, on the salary lines, on the student salary lines, 308,000, you know, we didn't have as many student workers last year. We still had students that were remote, you know, that weren't on campus. We also know that going forward, we usually have funding left over in the student salary line item. And so we're increasing their salary for next year because we want them to stay on campus and work on campus. And so, you know, this number will go down next year because we're going to increase their salary to keep them employed on campus. And at the same time, probably reduce the number of students that we have. But you know, a lot of these, like the full-time faculty salaries and those institutional support salaries, a lot of those are attributed to positions that were unfilled. We maybe had faculty that retired at Christmas time, and those positions weren't filled through the spring, or so some of this will be reabsorbed in the next year because we'll be pretty much back to normal operations. Like the $90,000 under first aid and medical supplies, 652. I can tell you that the bulk of that probably was covered. This is leftover because we had stimulus dollars that purchased PPE and all of those kinds of things. So this is a real anomaly for us. But a lot of it is because we just were not doing the things that we typically do in a normal year as far as travel and, you know, all of those sorts of things. And so next year would look different than this. But we do evaluate those budgets. To get back to your question, we do evaluate those budgets and we'll realign if we need to. Yeah.
And we'll start creating next year's budget probably in the next couple months.
Wow. Which line item would contain all of the workers that
Which
aren't
page are you
hired
on?
by the college? Which line?
Are you looking at page 3?
3 would contain the salaries of those workers that don't really officially work for the college, that are student workers. They're like paid 7 or minimum wage, $7 an hour, or whatever.
Well, it's 541, the student salaries.
Under student salaries.
I see. You got a
And
lot
this
of
is-
those.
Well, we do. We have 400 students that work for us typically. And some of those work because they have federal work study and some of them work because they have institutional work study dollars. It's a combination. Our student workers, we move them through the federal guidelines first to see if they qualify for federal work study dollars, so that we use up those federal dollars first before we use up institutional dollars.
I just know somebody's been trying to get on forever.
as a student worker?
No, she's been trying to go from a student worker to at least part-time or full-time.
Well,
Met 3 positions, 3 interviews. Nope.
well, it probably has to do maybe with qualifications and some of the.
Seniority, I don't know. Could have a lot of things. I'm just repeating what you said.
Kent, if you want to continue.
For my 2 cents, that's always the same 2 cents. But we've got money left over from last year. We've unspent it. I believe my number could be off, but I thought we sent like $800,000 back to students in the form of just payments last year because we had extra COVID money. We're looking at raises from last year that we didn't give. I do think we need to keep in mind the taxpayers not holding on to the money of theirs last year we didn't spend.
Well, that's a good segue into this next section. On the first page, next document, this was a question that was asked at the last board meeting. How have the actual taxes levied gone the past few years? Because we did lower the mill levy, and this does show that we have actually lowered the taxes from 2020. From 2020 and 2019, we levied the same amount, almost $15 million. Last year, we actually lowered the amount levied. And of course, for 2022, we're going to recommend a tax levy of $14,713,000 for the operating funds, for the general fund. So the 2 mil, approximate 2 mil capital outlay levy will go away, of course. We are recommending for next year that the mill levy that we publish, the mill levy rate that will show in the notice of public hearing is the same as the actual mill levy rate for the general fund that was certified in November last year by the county clerk. That's on page 4 of this information that I gave you. 16.144 mils. The page before that is a notice of public hearing, and you can see that when we approved that in August, this is page 3, the general fund was estimated to be 16 mils. The valuation went down between August and November from the 808 million on page 3 to 800 million. That was the final valuation in November. So that caused the mill levy to go up 1/1400ths of a mil.
I would prefer not to adopt a particular mill levy, but instead would prefer to adopt a level of spending,
Yeah.
dollar level of spending.
That's what you do.
That's a good point. I mean, we talk about the mill levy because we will put an estimated mill levy on the notice of public hearing.
Right.
It's required. But what you are actually approving, and I believe it says that in the notice of public hearing, you approve the total expenditures per fund. So if you look on page 3, this was last year's notice, and where it says proposed budget 2020-2021, you actually approved the total for each fund as a maximum at that time. And you also approved the levy of $14,420,075 with an estimated mill levy rate. And when the valuation went down, the mill levy.
The 14.4 stays the same no matter.
Yeah, you approve the taxes to be levied. And then
14.4.
Based on the valuation,
Yep.
they said. the mill
based
levy.
on the valuation that you know at that point in time.
Right.
And I know you guys are, at this point, I think, familiar with that, but I like to reinforce that every time, because when we bring you the recommendation at the July 26th meeting, I believe it is, 2 weeks from yesterday, we will be bringing you a document like this, page 3. And it's our intent that that document will show taxes to be levied of 13,713,000, which is on the page 1 here. And it will show an estimated mill rate of 16,144. I should caveat that just a little bit. We got notice yesterday, I think it was, that Symmetry,
No, Evergy.
Evergy, they miscalculated their valuation, so the county is going to lower our valuation by about $800,000. It makes about $12,000 difference on our taxes. So this 13,713 will go down by about $12,000. Because what we have said all along is we would like to get the valuation increase and use the same, but keep the mill levy equal. That's for what we show on the notice of public hearing. So that's our intent when we bring this to you next month. The other thing
Just real quick, what I see as real numbers is we were at 12.9 last year with no capital mill outlay, and we're going to 13.7 this year, which is about 6% increase.
Right,
In total
that's the
dollars.
valuation.
In total dollars taxed.
Right, that 6% is the 6% valuation increase. That's what we're asking for you to approve. That's our recommendation. And, you know, there's just some history there on page 2, but I think that's pretty much what I wanted to let you know. I would like to mention this. I try to mention this every year. You know, the operating budget that we show you is made up of the undesignated portion of the general fund and the PTE fund, the tech fund, those two funds. So when we put it in the budget, the general fund will include more than just the undesignated part of the operating fund. It'll include all those designated funds. Plus, we usually build in a little leeway because of the state statute that if we would overspend for any reason our legal budget, we get docked that much state aid. So we usually built in a little excess on that. That excess does not affect the taxes. We beef up or overestimate the non-tax revenues. So it's just an accounting issue to keep the taxes where we feel they need to be for the operating budget. So I always like to say that each year because it's just something that people may not understand, or your constituents might say, well, why is this, you know, the total expenditure level so much higher than it was the year before? Well, the year before was the actual, and this year it's you know, beefed up a little bit of contingency.
I had one thing I want to pass out to us trustees. I'm sorry I didn't make enough copies, but sorry for my notes that are on there. That's me. But on the front page here, we've got 2018 at 14,128 and 14,9, 14,7, 14,2. But if you go back to 2017, that's when we first did the capital mill outlay, and it jumped to 13.5. But the year before that, we were at 11.8. So, I mean, that's a tight snapshot of us all just staying by right near 14 million. But before then, we've gone from 5 million in 2002 to close to 15 the year before last.
Increased valuations.
No, I get it.
Increased costs,
I get
all
it.
those kinds
I mean,
of
the
things.
valuations have gone up about twice, and then we raised the mill
Yeah, the big deal was
1, 2, 3, 4 different times.
2017.
Plus the capital mill.
Should talk over you.
No, that's all right.
Yeah,
That's like that.
Everybody
that's
else does,
something
right?
that I think we've talked a lot about in BP meeting. I think we've talked about it here too, but you know, that 2 mills, that was really needed. And it allowed us to build up some infrastructure, especially in IT. And if it wasn't for the stimulus money now, we would probably really be, you know, showing you this deferred maintenance list and saying, how are we going to fund this if we can't get more tax money? So I think that's helping us at least maintain right now, but it's not going to last forever.
what other questions do we have for Kent? Because on the 26th, we'll be asked to approve the public notice for
Right.
the
and
mill
there-
levy recommendation or something other than that, if that's.
Right,
what the
we'll
board-
give you a whole, the board book or the budget book like we do 3 times a year. It'll have the whole cash reconciliation, it'll have information on all the designated funds, the operating funds. We'll try to get that out a little bit in advance. This is a really difficult time for our accounting people. So that's on a Monday. We'll hope to try to get that out to you by the Thursday before. It's touch and go.
And on the 26th, that's what you're going to present to us to vote up or down, and that's what you want to publish as the budget. That'll go to
Right.
the newspaper.
And so what we'll present the notice of public hearing. You will have the amount of taxes that we're recommending to be levied. And, yeah, that'll set the max at the board,
Right. Well, I just want to say right now, I'm not going to vote to approve a 6% increase in property taxes next year, even though it's just valuation. So it'll be similar to last year where we've got to talk about it. So if it changes, that'd be great for, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I mean, I expect to have a big discussion on it in 2 weeks from now.
But that's why we have the meeting.
3 hours last year, I
Right,
think,
yeah.
if I remember.
I think it may have been longer than that.
I expect we'll have
So-
plenty of discussion on it, but any other questions for Kent as it relates to
Just,
that or?
just a comparison on, looking at maybe the last 3 years of the dollars. The actual dollars that were the total budget of the college. Not the amount levied, but the actual budget total for the college. In other words, if their budget's $1 million a year, that's what I want to see in there on that line. It was $1 million in 2020, $1 million in 2021, so forth and so on. But if it's 60 million, that's what I want to see on that line. And the reason I want to see that is because I want to compare the cost of doing business as it relates to the mill levy. That's
You
the
want to
only,
see the budget,
The total,
the legal
the
budget.
dollars, operating estimate of whatever the total dollars are that you are estimating that it's going to cost to operate the college for 1 year.
That's the budget.
Yeah, okay, but not just the amount that you're going to levy, but the actual.
That's what is on here.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
just,
And so when we
was
do
wondering if
that-
I could just get 3 years.
When we do that, we of course have to break it down by fund. So I think what might be helpful, you mentioned this at the finance committee. I could go back to the audits for the past 3 years.
I can do that. I'll just go do that. I can do that. I've got a spreadsheet going now anyway. I'm trying to look at.
I would be happy to
historically.
do that and show it to all the trustees.
And that'd be great too, because, I might make a mistake, heaven forbid. But it could happen. Although
question-
I don't think anybody's gonna make a mistake like those that go unnamed, that keep doing our certificates, and I'm not talking about the college side. All the other people that have a hand in doing the certificates that they produce in the county clerk's office. It's amazing how many errors there are. It's just amazing.
Shelby.
Did we hit 142,000 credit hours? I know we were really looked like summertime was going to get us over that mark. I never did follow up and see.
Our best estimate, and I think ESOM was okay with this, is about 141,200. I think we missed it by about 800. That's our best estimate right now.
And you're still basing next year's budget on 142?
Yeah, and Jessica's not here, but
We're ahead of
it's
last year.
interesting that she reported this today, that the enrollments as of right now are up compared to last year. They're not up compared to 2 years.
Right. I expect some of the $10 million of that one fund the state approved
Kansas?
should hopefully get us some more students.
Well, yeah, we hope. We've got 31,
Right.
31, I think, so far that have applied. There's a couple of them in there that aren't eligible. But yeah, I mean, the forms were just finalized last week, so we think now we'll be able to really push. So we'll see. Nobody quite knows. And I'll tell you, some of the constraints that go along with it are going to be burdensome for
Right.
students, but it
So
should
it
help.
gives kids options to
Yeah.
free college if they stick around. If that's
Yeah.
a pathway they need to go, that'll benefit us.
Then I have a question about head counts in general. When we are doing our totals or student totals pertaining to the high school classes, what are we counting? Are we counting all students in that class or just those that have paid the tuition? Because those high school classes tend to be thin on Butler County students that have paid and thick on those that want to take that course. And they want the dual credit, but they don't get the dual credit.
I don't believe that is the case. We, in our concurrent classes, they are typically in there for credit. Now, I have Heather verify that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to
We
see
have-
that.
I mean, there's
Let's
probably.
just start with the Rose Hill
Well, you-
classes.
You can do that, but those are wanting Butler credit. We have them sign that they are wanting Butler credit.
Right.
And I don't believe.
But if they
that
don't pay the
majority
amount of
them
money,
are
then
not.
they don't get.
Yeah,
the
they
credit.
do. Yeah, they do. If they sign up for Butler credit, if they're a Butler County student, they would potentially qualify for a waiver, a scholarship waiver, if they're an in-county student like that. But yeah, we still count them. They still get credit for those classes.
If they're enrolled in the course through the college, yes.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
Rose Hill, it's all of our concurrent classes. that
Okay,
are out of
just
high school.
want to make sure I can clarify that.
Somebody
Are you
maybe
just
is,
asking if they're taking it for college credit, that they're paying for college credit? That's how you get the college credit. You have to pay, or is it?
no, they might be scholarshiped. I mean, we've got students here that are taking, or, high school
Right, but I mean,
kids that
the
are
college is
taking.
still paid to get them the diploma.
They get that credit, whether they're, if they're enrolled in that.
Okay, bottom line is that we got a teacher that's teaching a class in Rose Hill.
Uh-huh.
Let's say it's Tanya Dockers. She's teaching a class in Rose Hill and 6 of her students are enrolled in the college course and the rest of them are in that class. They want the dual credit. They haven't paid for Butler County. They can't really pay for that class, so they just take it. That's how I'm wondering how it's loaded on our head count.
Oh, well,
Not to use her name in particular, it would have been anybody's.
If
There
they're not
would be-
enrolled in the college, then we would not count them
Yeah.
as students.
yeah, they're not
They
counted.
So in that
not
example,
considering
6 would
college credit, but majority of students that are in those concurrent sections are taking it for college credit.
Okay,
They
so
could.
if you have a case like that, then who pays that salary teacher's salary? Is it the college for those 6 students or the college for the
The high
30
school.
or-
It depends on the situation. Some of the instructors are high school, what I call the current enrollment partnerships, and they are full-time employees of the school district that we have approved to teach a college course for us.
Okay,
So if, for example, there are 5 out of 10 of those students are getting college credit, there is a proration that applies. 50% would be at our adjunct rate,
okay,
and we send that to the school district. The
Okay.
school district pays for all of their benefits, all of their salary that they've got in their contract. We just pay like an adjunct rate to the school district in lieu of salary. So
okay.
if we are not paying for like a fifth of their salary, that is never been the case.
Yep.
Just asking a question.
Very few Augusta high school students are not enrolled in the college and the high school class. Very few. Maybe 3 out of 20 for an English class. Almost all of them are doing the dual credit program and have paid their tuition to the college as appropriate.
And if it's an employee of that school district, if we do it in lieu of salary, payment to them
All-
at our adjunct.
And all of our classes are taught by AHS students, except for the afternoon classes that Butler sends somebody over, psychology and
Sometimes college algebra.
we have our own teacher for college algebra.
And sometimes,
Sociology.
You meant
And some-
AHS teachers, right? Not students.
AHS teachers,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
and sometimes
I was gonna say, wow.
the payments are sent to the school districts.
I knew that.
Well, some of the school districts actually pay the teacher directly, right? And some of the school districts use that fund, that's up to the school district, yeah.
Different districts have different practices.
Yeah. Some
the
some
point
school
of
districts
contention
keep
in
that
some
money for
schools.
themselves.
Some teachers just keep the money and put it toward salaries in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I guess.
You
Other,
know.
other questions for Kent or Dr. Kroll as it relates to the budget?
Well, yes, Mary Martha and I have a question, and I think I'm alluding to what Shelby was talking to. So our general fund budget for last year was $12,928, and $12,928,138.
That was the tax levy.
It was 14.4 if you include the capital mill.
No, but for the general fund.
For the,
What
No,
page
that
are you
was
on?
just
What
the
page
tax
Where are
levy.
you?
I think on page 3 of this second.
The general fund levy was 12,928,138.
Right.
The levy.
That's the amount of taxes we levied, and you approved to be levied at 16 mil assessment.
but we
So
also
we're
approved-
It's on the notice of public hearing.
So we're proposing to increase the amount levied by $785,000.
6%.
Roughly, yes, from 12,928,000 to 13.
That's the increase in valuation.
That is correct.
And last year
In the
we,
general fund.
last year we were required to keep 10.5% cash on hand, which was
Here.
say like $5 million left over. We want to keep that. We had over $10 million left
But
over.
this,
That'll be zero.
And we're
Don't we
doing
give
that for,
1.4 million.
Give Kent a minute to answer the, and then
so last year we were required to keep at least $5 million on hand, no, 10.5%. So roughly 5 million. And we had, I think you said close to 10 million left over. And now some of that went back to students and teachers and previous years. But I haven't seen anything yet that reduces the mill levy to the people that pay. I just consider our budget, a third of it comes from the local taxpayers.
I
That's how it
just
breaks
think,
down.
sorry,
Sorry.
I shouldn't interrupt.
No, you're all right.
I just think from the administrative perspective, that 2 mil capital outlay was part of our base money that we needed to operate the school and to make it sustainable.
Right.
And that 2 mil's going away. So when you just ignore, if you just look at what, the general fund.
I see what you're
amount,
saying.
and you're ignoring that 2 mils that we needed, in our opinion, as administrators, to sustain our operation.
Because those funds
We-
didn't exist independently of the
No.
budget entirely.
For me as
They
a
were
taxpayer, I
They-
needed my house payment not to go
The
up.
2 mil?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
much
It was
every year,
separate.
And then you guys
it
build
was
a bunch
levied
of,
separately.
build a
but
bunch
the
of
funds
buildings
were-
without taxpayer.
No.
Well, we have permission because the board voted on it, but now we have a bunch more buildings and a bunch more liability, and we have depreciation forever. And we've created a lot more liabilities while declining student enrollment 7% per year, and I think it's a bad business model.
Well,
And I don't want to balance that on the back of the local taxpayers.
I think this gives us an opportunity to talk about the vision for the college. What's the vision for, do we have a growth mindset for this college, for innovation and for student success and those kinds of things? Or are we in a perspective where we want to retract the things that we do and we want to, do those kinds of things? Doug's asked about the 2 mil capital outlay. Those dollars got set aside for 11 technology projects. They were not spent on anything else. They were spent on those technology projects, about $6 million or over $6 million worth of projects. And we had to track those expenditures. So they didn't get just added to the general fund and intermingled with everything else. There were 11 technology projects that were identified that those dollars specifically were spent on. And we all believe very strongly, it was things from updating old infrastructure. If we had not spent the prior 2 years working on those technology issues and had not had that capital outlay, our transition in March 2020 would have been a disaster. Exactly. And so those funds were critical to not only being able to continue to operate, but to be able to operate like we did a year ago to transition when we were forced to move everybody remotely and online and everything else. So
the general fund was essentially $13 million last year.
just under, yes.
It was 14.4 because we had a capital mill.
Well,
but that
But
capital mill.
I'm just
Right,
dealing
right,
with,
without the capital mill.
I'm dealing with
But,
the general
yeah,
fund.
That's important to break
If we were
down.
able
Our-
to build a budget at 13 million,
Right. Our budget development manual,
That's what
I just
I'm
want to
following.
quote some numbers here. In 2015, we had 181,000 credit hours. 2016, 181. 2017, 181. Then we went to 175, 164 in 2019, then we went to 150 something.
We were shooting for 148 last year. We ended up at 140.2, whatever it is now. It's just bam, and we're going to spend all this money that we have to have this to build these buildings so we can survive, but the students aren't there to
I think
support all
what
these
Shelby's
buildings.
trying to say, at least I would be thinking this. I think what he's trying to say is that we can't keep justifying the cost of the college rising and the mill levies staying the same or even lowering just a tiny bit while our student population is declining so much. I mean, there's
Except
got
I
to be, you know how people talk about survivability, you got to survivability projects or whatever. We're not going to survive like this for very long. So, you know, I really appreciated the strategic plan that the college brought today, but it is certainly not like any plan that I've ever seen, but then I've never seen a college plan. I was thinking it was maybe a marketing plan because I understand that we have to market it, but unless you get them in here with a free laptop to use for a couple of years or a discount, or unless you take a stand as a board, I don't see it happening that we draw a bunch of students. And this is a very conservative area right here, in spite of what scholarly academics may think. This is very, very, very conservative in this area. And I think that includes into Wichita, and people are mad at Wichita right now because of what they passed or what they're trying to pass at City Hall. So I think it's a good opportunity to take a stand so that we can get more students. So I really agree with Shelby, and that's all I have to say on it.
I do understand that fixed costs are tremendously increased. And I understand that that's a fact. Even if our enrollment's down, our fixed costs are going up.
Well, we can't keep doing that though. We gotta find some way to, maybe we don't need to build that new building. Maybe we don't need to keep this and use it for public safety. Maybe we need to sell it, or maybe we need to do this or that. You know, there's gotta be a thought process that goes along the line of, hey, how we sustain this, it's a whole different ballgame. And we all know that sustainability is pretty important.
But Julie, when you mentioned free laptops or something to get them in from a marketing
Whatever it
standpoint,
takes.
but it's not free. If we want to give those, say we wanted to give those to students, we have to pay for them.
Well,
means
we'd
it
rather
has to come
spend the
from the budget.
800,000 we were gonna give the
Well, last,
provosts out
last
with on
month, there was
laptops.
$1.5 million in there somewhere for laptop. It's budgeted.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's free, it's.
I'm assuming
Money
those are
that-
for faculty
yeah.
and staff.
No, no,
No.
that's
It's a one-to-one initiative that we were
But it is
considering, but we
budgeted.
don't know that we're doing it.
I think maybe, okay, I know what we listen to is the direction that the academic staff and so forth wants to take, but I thought we had a really good work session. And I think that the college, I for one, would like to see it change directions a bit. But as long as we keep doing the same old thing, then we're just gonna keep doing the same old thing.
I don't think we're doing the same old thing. I mean, we're looking at cutting where we can cut. We're looking at the competition that's out there. We face COVID. That changed, trends here and trends there. You've got to ride some of it out and get back to normal and see what's going on.
What do you
And
think
you got to
normal's
just
gonna
look at
be?
the big picture and try to control costs where you can and get, your income up with students and everything else. I don't think this board or administration or anybody in the academic part of it is thinking, oh, let's just throw more money at it, or let's keep kicking the mill levy up, and let's just spend money right and left. I don't think that's the mens rea or what people are thinking. I think the board and everybody tries hard to move the direction we need to move, but there's so many uncertainties. It's like COVID hitting. Who would have guessed? And the impact that may have had on things, or the state cutting back, or money being infused because of COVID, and how long that's going to last and where it's going to go.
That's just plain crazy, and that's just gonna make us all more debt. But
I don't think so. I think if we use those stimulus funds really strategically, they're one-time funds, they aren't gonna create more debt
I think
for us. We can
talking
use them
No,
for
not
one-time
that.
expenditure.
Talking about the
As
general
country.
public.
Well,
printing
yeah, for
money
the
in.
country.
We've already hit inflation.
Mary Martha, did you have another question, or
No, I
did
did
Doug
not.
ask?
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments for tonight? If
Don't
not,
believe so,
we
sir.
will send everybody home.
Well, hey.
Thank you all.